Beartooth, Polaris and Landmarks played the Alexandra Palace in London as part of their UK and EU tour, and I was there to experience the whole thing, and so here I'll try to recap what their sets were like, what the whole evening was like, and a couple other fun little tidbits along the way. If you find yourself enjoying this review, make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more of these in future. Now, the day itself wasn't just the gig for me. I was also there early on to interview Polaris. That interview will be on the channel at some point in the next couple of days is the plan, which was a treat and a joy. I've been a fan of that band for 7 odd years, so to have the chance to sit down with them and have a chat about their music and that gig and the whole tour was really, really cool. And on the way in to go interview them, we were passing by the tour buses, and Caleb Shomo of Beartooth had just stepped out of one. I was not expecting to see him suddenly, out of nowhere. We gave each other a polite nod, and then on I went to interview Polaris. Now, the first band of the night was Landmarks. They're a French metalcore band who I know are incredibly successful. I've heard maybe 3 or 4 of their songs and have enjoyed them. Never seen them live before, so I was really excited for that. I absolutely did not expect them to open with the song Creature, because that is just the vocalist coming out on stage by himself, standing up in front of 10,000 people from the UK, presumably, and just opening up with the French rap. I thought it was such a cool, bold, badass move. And it just jarred the crowd into going like, oh, hang on, what are we in for here? And then they rip into the song itself. It was full of absolute noise. I know that seems obvious because gigs are full of sound, but the hugeness of the sound was really quite impressive. The vocalist was running up and down the stage all over the place. But also, what surprised me is how much scream vocals went on beyond the main lead vocalist. There were at least 2 other guitarists who were doing scream vocals for other parts of the songs, and also some call and answer moments. I believe it was the bassist who was doing the Drew York moments of the song Death, which is a really big pair of shoes to fill in, but he did a pretty decent job. It was a very different voice from Drew York's, but the back and forth between him and the lead vocalist, Flo, was pretty jaunty, pretty fun, enjoyed what they were doing there. My 2 favorite songs of Landmarks are Creature and Death, so I was absolutely delighted that they opened with both of those, and I was able to be in the photo pic for those, get some really up-close footage, but also just experience that thing up close as well. It can be very easy when you're there to get the footage itself to just be behind the camera, but I always make sure there's at least 20 seconds even to just take in the spectacle of what that is, especially a venue of this size with this huge stage. I mean, most of the footage is I had to hold the camera up like all over here to get over the lip of the stage because they were at least taller than my head, so that was kind of tricky, but it was a unique perspective to have on that show. None of them looked daunted by the experience. Sure, they've been on, I mean, they've done massive gigs. I've seen on YouTube they've done some gigs in France, I think, with huge crowds, right? They are massively successful over there and growing ever more in the UK. But yeah, they were supremely confident and seemingly very chill about their position there and delivered a really great, punchy and exacting show. Now, in terms of the band themselves, my favorite things that they do are the scream vocals, the heaviness. That's my favorite. I do love the French rap bit at the start of Creature as well. At times, the clean vocals weren't the strongest in the world for my own personal preferences, but it didn't really matter. This is the thing about live music. It's okay for things not to be completely perfect, right? And at one point, Zelly from Paleface Swiss jumped on the stage, which no one was expecting because they weren't playing at that show. So that was really cool. Always love to see a guest feature in a live show, and yeah, vocals from that individual were pretty fucking powerful, as expected. I don't listen to Landmarks on the regular, so I don't know a lot of their other songs, but they came across really well live. You know, you could understand the structures of them, and the melodies came across quite clearly. So it was really cool to see Landmarks finally live and enjoy them for what they can do on a huge stage such as that one. Next up was, of course, Polaris, a band who I've seen live several times. From years ago, seeing them in like a 500-cap venue in London to seeing them at Download Festival on the main stage. I've also seen them do Wembley Arena, so I know they can handle this size of venue. Right before they took the stage, I was at the left-hand side with the other photographers waiting to be let into the front there. And Jesse, the guitarist, was sat on one of the cases just getting his fingers warmed up, and he spotted me and he goes, "You're a YouTuber." I was like, yeah, cool. That was a fun moment. So I had a quick chat with him. about the band. You know, at one point I was like, anyway, you should be finishing your warm-up, I'm sorry. Like, and then left him alone. Went to the front, and I was so excited to see Polaris. I've never seen them this close up before. After a little intro music, each of the members hopped onto the stage one by one, setting the tone for what was undoubtedly going to be a full-force, energetic, and powerful show from the lads from Australia, opening strong and commanding the attention of the audience immediately as they played All in Vain. The second song of the set was Nightmare, which is my favorite song of theirs. So I was trying to take that whole moment in. I was up there at the front, up close and personal with them as they performed. That was a pretty spectacular moment. They had a 45-minute set at this gig because they were the main support band. The last gig I'd seen of them was a headliner. We got a bunch of songs. So here they were kind of fitting in a bunch of bangers into 45 minutes, which they absolutely did. Some big favorites in the past as well, including Masochist and Hypermania. There were huge sing-along moments. There were plenty of people in the crowd that knew the words, because there's moments where Jamie would ask the crowd essentially to sing the biggest, catchiest, biggest call-out moments of the song. There were so many voices calling out in those moments to support what Jamie was asking for from the crowd. Really, really cool to see. As usual, they were entirely flawless. They're a very well practiced and experienced band and didn't detect any issues at any stage. All the vocals sounded great. All the drums punched the fuck out of the speakers. It was really precise and full. Loved every moment of their set. I really think that might have been the best that I've seen them in terms of just the sheer power that they delivered and the animated level of Jamie. Especially is important when you're playing a gig that size, because the people 100 meters away, because it's such a freaking big venue, maybe it's 100 meters. 100 meters is generous. 50 meters away. Could see the energy going into the show. It was so fucking cool, man. There's a twinkle in his eye the entire time, which just draws you in. It's an exciting thing to experience live in person. So yes, as expected, Polaris absolutely crushed their set, and I'm sure gained a few new fans along the way from that massive audience that was brought to Beartooth's Alexandra Palace for this gig. And then it was time for the headliner of Beartooth, who I had seen before a few times as well. So not unlike Polaris, I had every confidence they were going to take this crowd and just pummel them with bangers from start to finish. I'd seen them at Wembley Arena about a year and a half ago. And that was a great show. Really enjoyed that. But this was the full tour for the most recent album, The Surface. And I was so excited to hear some of the songs off of that. And they opened with the song The Surface, which is a great tone setter containing incredible heaviness, but also some of the catchiest melodies and harmonies within it. You get a real sense of what you could expect from the whole night going forward with that first song. Again, wonderful opportunity to get the best footage possible by being at the front there. You know, mere feet away from those chiseled abs of Caleb's. Quite a sight to behold. The energy that he has from the off was a mixture of like subdued anger and total optimism. It's a really unusual concoction because the older Beartooth songs are quite aggressive. The latest album is really positive, and he has to sort of straddle both those worlds throughout the course of the evening. It means he puts his full emotional self into every song, and you can feel it from the man emanating from the stage, especially when you're as close as I was able to be for this particular gig. And there were a whole bunch of amazing set piece moments, right? They had confetti cannons off at the start. Actually, they had like 2 more confetti moments, I think, later on. During the third song, which was Bad Listener, Caleb has a fucking flamethrower. So you weren't allowed to be at the front in the photo pit for that. You could only be there for like a song and a half, basically, because he's not pointing the flamethrower up, he's pointing it directly at the crowd. So I didn't really want a new haircut by flames, so that was perfectly fine. But a really cool sight to see. They did not save any expenses on flames or like smoke, gas, pyro, I don't know what you call it. Steam? Smoke? What would even that be? Pneumatic jauntiness? I don't know. Or confetti. There was plenty of big things there. They had screens with some cool visualizations throughout the set as well. At one point, Caleb disappeared for a minute or so, as there was an amazing drum solo going on, followed by a sort of, well, it sort of led into an instrumental moment with the rest of the band. And then, Caleb pops up in front of the sound desk, way back in the middle of the crowd, to do a little acoustic set about halfway through the gig, which was unexpected and wonderful. It took people a few minutes to be like, I'm hearing I'm hearing Caleb's voice, but there's no one on stage. And eventually, oh shit! Kind of fun to watch people have that realization. I assumed he would do his acoustic "Look the Other Way" song from the latest album, but he started out with a cover, which is unexpected, by The Killers, Mr. Brightside, which is a huge sing-along anthem. What I liked is he set it up by asking the crowd, like, are there any singers in the room? And you get a few people going like, sure, I'm a singer. But his point was, you can all sing tonight. Like this, there's time to let yourself go and sing along. And what better song to do it than Mr. Brightside? Who doesn't know the words to that to sing at the top of their lungs? That was quite a sweet moment. And then he went into Look the Other Way from there. Other standout moments for me were the song Might Love Myself, which was last year's big self-compassion banger that surprised the rock universe. And live, it felt even poppier in its own way. It didn't have so much of the meatiness of distorted guitars. I mean, there's a little bit of a breakdown later on, but it was cool to not only have such a rare positive sentiment in a song in Beartooth's catalog, but in any kind of rock metal band's catalog. But also for them to lean into that sonically live, I thought was really cool. It was a wonderful palate cleanser, early on-ish in the set. And Caleb's vocals were off the charts last night. Again, I've seen him a few times in the past, and he's never been a perfect vocalist in terms of the clean vocals. The scream vocals were always on point, but last night at this gig, it was so fucking good. I spent some of the gig being like, is there live auto-tune? I tried to figure out if there was, and I still don't know. There either was, and it's fine, like, if you want to have as perfect and polished a show as possible, a little tightening up live, whatever. If there was, it was almost completely imperceptible. Like, you couldn't really... But there were moments, I'm sure, there were definitely some vocal effects that were cued in, either programmatically along with the click for certain parts of the song, like, I think it was Bad Listener or Disease, possibly, that started with a slightly different vocal production, like almost like he's going through a microphone thing, similar to the studio recording of that. So maybe there was a layer of that on it. I also, even when I was being critically listening into it, I wasn't sure, because there's so many moments where a bit of autotune would be trying to correct you to a note when he's just kind of speaking, so I think you would have heard it then. All this to say, I think he is somehow perfecting his live vocals to a near perfect level, and it really made some of those songs come to life in a way that they deserve. In fact, especially with this most recent album, kind of the pop vocals are in that. I mean, My Love Myself has got some amazing pop moments and runs and things. He was going off at times, completely new melodies in some moments of the songs, really bouncing around in really high notes and just crushing all of it. So that was amazing to see. Clearly, he enjoyed the gig, I think you could say, for to understate that massively. He took a moment towards the end to chat to the crowd, essentially for about 5 minutes, about how much this meant to him and how much he understood that it meant to all of us to be celebrating and enjoying these songs together in this room, and being free to feel connected to each other and to the music. It was a very uniting, emotional moment from Caleb there towards the end. And it was right before their main set ender of I Was Alive, which is a hugely powerful song anyway. But also, lyrically, when you're in one of these live moments, realizing this will never happen again exactly as it's happening right now, and the only people experiencing this in this exact way are these several thousand people with you, and for having that song being like, I was alive, I lived, I did things, you're like, yes, we're all here together to enjoy this, we're fucking feeling alive in this moment. That was a wonderful finale of the main set. Now, of course, there's going to be encores, and this gig was no exception. It was a curious gap between I Was Alive and the first encore. There was a sort of like sound of rain, and then storm and thunder, and it's like, what is going on here? And they come on, and it's setting up sunshine. So it's like this bit of storm, and then the sunshine clears it away. They've really thought about the transitions within their set. Sunshine is an absolute banger, not dissimilar to The Surface, the opener of the whole set. Insane heaviness, but also delightful, melodic joy within some of those moments as well. And then they topped it off with a final encore song, huge crowd pleaser in Between, which had probably the loudest sing-along of the night, I suspect. And I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure there was probably more confetti at that point as well. Whoever's sweeping the floors of that venue has got a lot of work to do after that show. But yeah, the whole night was amazing. It was a phenomenal show from start to finish. Every band nailed what they came there to do, and it's the biggest and best I've seen Beartooth. And it was, you know, absolutely worth every penny of the asking price to be in that room. And I just wonder what could possibly be next for them. Like, they've just played Alexandra Palace and crushed it. Who knows? I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next for them, because it just seems to be going from strength to strength. There's a massive fan base for them, and it is growing all the time with the new songs and the development of their live show as well. Very, very cool. So that was my experience of the Beartooth, Polaris, and Landmarks tour. What an insane lineup. So powerful from start to finish. Really cool. And just great to experience that with thousands of people all moshing along to the heaviest fucking breakdowns and the most delightful choruses imaginable within one evening. Now, if you enjoyed this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because I've got a couple big, interesting gigs coming up soon. There's some Sleep Token on the horizon, which I'm very excited to experience and share here on this channel. Thank you for watching this, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon.